Hey everybody, we're going to do some reading today. And before we start reading anything, an article or a website or whatever, we need to look at the structure of the page. So let's take a look at what we've got here. First thing, I see there's kind of a title at the top. It says Tribes in Washington, Decisions That Defined Us. I see there's a section on directions right here, right? So that's in bold. So it's going to tell me what I'm supposed to do. You should read the directions, read everything on the page. I'm not going to read those to you yet. We'll get back to those. I see there's another kind of a headline here, Section 1, Diverse and Distinctive Identities. There's that word identities, what we've been talking a lot about. I see we've got images of, um, they look like icons, right? They look like images that maybe these are representing something about Native Americans or the tribes. Looks like I've got two paragraphs I'm going to read. I've also got two questions. I'll go ahead and read these because knowing the questions that I'm going to read are going to help me in my reading. First one says, how did tribes identify themselves before European contact? And the second one says, why is it important to understand this and how we refer to them today? So I'm going to be looking for that. And number two says, how would you describe the diversity of tribes in Washington? There's that word diversity again. Man, wouldn't it be great if they had defined that word? All right. And that was just kind of my pre-reading of that article. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the reading. It says read section 1, then answer the two questions below to check your understanding. The information will help you understand that tribes all over the state and the world have diverse identities and traditions. First paragraph. Indigenous people identify themselves based on their tribal membership. Instead of using terms like Washington Native or American Indian, it is best to acknowledge their specific tribal identity, such as Spogan, Lumini, or Swinomish. Terms like Native American, American Indian are considered offensive by some because they highlight the term America, even though these tribes and cultures existed long before the land was called by that name. The term Indian is also inaccurate. During the first voyage to the Western Hemisphere, Christopher Columbus mistakenly believed he had landed in the Indies. That is why he called those he encountered Indians. Okay, it's time to answer the question. How did tribes identify themselves before European contact? Why is it important to understand this and how we to refer to tribes today? Well, right away, I'm remembering this part about Christopher Columbus and how he called them the wrong thing, right? And I'm also thinking back, because I just read it, that a lot of Native people, well, if you say like Native American or American Indian, they don't like that term America because the tribes and cultures existed long before the land was called by the name America. And then up here, it told me about how indigenous people identify themselves based on their tribal membership. Okay, so I'm going to come up with an answer here, and I'm going to say they identify themselves by tribal membership because it says that. That's the answer in the text, right? And then it's important to how we refer to them today because some terms they were just wrong, and some don't acknowledge that they were here before America was. As soon as I saw this question, I was a little confused. How would you describe the diversity of tribes in Washington? So it's asking me to do something, right? I didn't write this. And then I remember the answers that I got for the first question. It all seemed to be in this paragraph. So I do need to look for something. It's asking me to describe diversity. So I'm going to go up here and look for the word diversity. And I remember that it talked about diverse identities, right? And it said to me, this information will help you understand that tribes all over the state and the world have diverse identities and traditions. Ooh, so I think that tribes all over the state and the world have different identities and tribal traditions. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic answer. I'm going to put it right in there. If you're having trouble finding the answers, I want you to think about the activity we did where we thought about what's it about and what did I learn. So when I look at this text, I can see that the words indigenous people are there. And then I can see that indigenous people identify themselves based on their tribal membership. So I know that this paragraph is going to have something to do with indigenous people and how they identify themselves. And I can see how they don't, because in the next sentence it talks about they don't use Washington Native or American Indian. And then it says it is best to do it in a way where we talk about tribal identities, such as Spokane, Lumi, or Swinomish. So what I can see is they say, these people don't like being talked about this way. They prefer it that way, right? So think about what the topic is. And then what did we learn about the topic? And that will usually help you find the answers to the question. All right, so a couple of strategies for you if you're still getting a little stumped. So remember that we preview the text and how it's set up. You're going to read all of the text on the page, the directions, the title, the vocabulary words. Look for words from the questions in the text to find the answers. So if you see a word in the question like diversity, look in the text for the word diversity. If you don't come away with a clear topic, go back and read it again. Use the what's it about and what did we learn protocol or technique to help you answer the questions. Okay, everybody, now it's your turn. I want you to take this packet and answer the questions. Make sure that you put your name on the top of it, first and last name very clearly. I'm going to ask the sub to pick it up when you're done with it, even if you just get to the second page or third page, whatever that may entail. Let's get it turned in, and I will see you Monday.